Hi, friends. Welcome to Encouraged and Equipped. On this podcast, we introduce you to the women of Christ Chapel Bible Church.
We love being encouraged to live out our faith in Jesus by hearing the stories of women in our church community. We are so glad that you're here.
Merry Christmas! We thought it would be fun to do something different on our episode today. So we invited a handful of our women's ministry staff to share about their lives so you could get to know them better. We also asked them about some of their Christmas memories and traditions, so hopefully you can be encouraged by them this season. We won't have new episodes over the next few weeks, but we will be back with new episodes in January. And in the meantime, we invite you to look back at some of our episodes like Surrender or Contentment, or perhaps listen in to a story of one of our Christ Chapel women so you'll be more equipped to walk with God in your own life. As always, we love it when you use the contact information in the show notes to reach out to us. I admit I'm biased, but I think you're going to love getting to know some of my favorite women. Here's Misty Denman, Lori Saltemeyer, Christina Sandra, and Cameron Ward.
Merry Christmas, everyone. My name is Misty Denman, and I'm part of the women's ministry staff. And instead of our usual format where we talk to somebody within our congregation and have one staff person usually, our whole episode today is Christ Chapel women's ministry staff. We just would love to have some fun, talk a little bit about Christmas today, get to know one another, have you get to know us a little bit. So if you're a regular listener, this is going to be a little different than what we normally do, but hopefully it'll be fun and good. And there'll be a few more of these kind of episodes to come in the future with other staff women, because there are more than 4 of us, but we just have 4 on today. So I'm here with Christina Sandra, who is part of the South Campus staff, and Lori Saltemeyer and Cameron Ward, who both work at the Fort Worth campus. So glad to have y'all here today. We are going to talk all things Christmas and then just a few things women's ministry, how we got involved, how the Lord brought us here, that kind of thing. So the first thing I'd love to hear is a fun Christmas story or memory that you treasure from any time in your life. Could be many years ago, or it could be sometime more recent.
Well, I'll tell you about my memory.
Lori. Yeah.
In 1978, my dad drove me from the East Coast to College Station to go to college. And I was so excited, and I was getting away and on my own, but somehow in there I forgot how homesick I was going to be and that I wasn't going to be able to go home, because back then you just didn't fly, and my family didn't have the money to fly me back and forth. So by the time Christmas came, I was so excited to be able to go home and see everyone. And I was sitting in the back of the plane, and when the plane landed in Baltimore, I just remember jumping up out of my seat and saying, I'm going to see my family. I'm going to see my family. I haven't seen them in 4 months. And just telling everybody around me, I'm going to see my family. I felt like the Kevin on Home Alone.
So sweet.
And they all just started, kind of smiling at me. But anyway, I just was so excited, and it was just a real special time.
I love that, Lori. That is a precious memory. And it reminds you of how much harder it was to travel then. And you went to school really far away.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the enthusiasm to stand up at the back of the plane when it lands.
I was going to be the first one off the plane. I was determined.
Love it. It's so sweet. What about you, Christina?
Well, last year we had a really fun Christmas. Some friends and us celebrated Christmas together, and on Christmas morning we sent all the kids upstairs while we got everything ready, and we put on beach shirts and sunglasses, and we put out beach chairs, and then called the kids down. And when they came downstairs, they each had a big giant suitcase with a bow on it, and they were filled with stuff for the beach because we were surprising them with a cruise. So that was super fun. It was just really cool to see their faces, and we made like a treasure hunt for them to figure out like where we were going, and there were different pieces of a map, and they put it together and stuff. It was really fun.
What a fun memory. Did you do the cruise then, or like way later?
Well, traveling the week after Christmas is very expensive, so we like pushed it out one more week. So we ended up going like over New Year's.
Yeah. One year our family did a trip to Disney, not at Christmas, but it was for Christmas.
That's
and
really
so
cool.
Christmas was small, but the big deal was going to Disney that year. And it was, that's great fun. What about you, Cameron?
Okay, so mine is more Christmas morning specific.
Yeah.
I was probably, I don't know, I was in elementary school. And I'm the youngest of 4. And so my brother was in high school at the time, and he was a part of this environmental club. And his club had gone to my dad's business to like see what he does. He's in the recycling business. And so it had been written up in the paper earlier that year. Well, my mom had taken it upon herself to get it framed, like to get this newspaper article framed. And there was a picture of my dad showing them this stuff. Well, both my dad and my brother, their names are Gary. And my brother had just started going by Gary at that point instead of his initials, GK, that he'd gone by his whole life. And so Mom did not think to designate whose Christmas gift went to who that year. And so my brother opens this gift, and it's this huge framed newspaper article she's just given like a 15-year-old kid. And he's looking at it, and everyone's like, awesome. Don't you love that, Gary? And you can just see him looking at it. He's like, and there's a picture of Dad, and there's me in the background. He's like out of focus in the back. And Mom is just sitting there with like her face is just washed over, and she goes, "That's for your dad." And it was like she wasn't going to tell him. Like only once she kind of read his disappointment was she like, "Yeah.
Nope.
That wasn't for you."
That's awesome.
So it was just like, and then after that, there were like 2 more gifts that came through that he would open it, and it would be these sweaters, and she'd be like, "That's for your dad."
Oh my gosh.
So we just kept taking his gifts away. She started marking them after that.
That's a great
That's
story.
really funny.
It's a fun memory, you know, just that you can all, I love that so much.
Yeah.
I've got so many more questions I want to ask about Christmas, but before we do, I'd love it if we could each just share a little bit about where we worked or what we did before we joined the women's ministry staff. And how did you originally get involved in the Christ Chapel Women's Ministry? I always am fascinated by people's stories of how they got involved in ministry in general. Christina?
Okay, that question
about you.
seriously feels like a lifetime ago.
It does. For me too.
Yeah, I've been on staff at Christ Chapel for almost 13 years.
Okay.
And so I was like trying to think back, like, what did I do before? But then I remembered I, for a short stint, was doing some marketing and sales for a radiology company here in town because I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And then one day I met this guy named Cody, and he was like, "I'm the new young adult pastor at Christ Chapel." And I was like, "Cool." And he said, "You should come check it out." And I said, "Okay, maybe I will." I wasn't really like super involved in church at the time. But I came because I had nothing else to do, you know, and I was looking for community, and showed up one Sunday, and I think it was his first Sunday as young adults pastor, and then just got connected in with the Gathering at the time is what it was called, and stayed around for long enough for that guy to ask me to come on staff and work. And so I came on staff as his intern and started seminary at the same time, and then here I am.
Wow.
Still at Christ Chapel.
Love it. Love it. And what's your degree in? What's your background?
My undergrad is in interior design.
Okay.
And then my master's is in Christian education.
Got it. And
then my
you also have
doctorate
a
is in educational ministry and executive leadership.
Love it, Christina. That's a fun story.
Awesome.
I feel like all of us, well, maybe not you, Cameron, we'll hear yours, but maybe the Lori and Christina and I have a story of who would have ever guessed this is where we would end up being, I think, in some ways.
We were volunteers too.
We
just were here volunteering. And then,
that's true. Lori, tell us about how you got here.
Well, I was an office manager for my husband's veterinary clinic for years until we sold it, and then took a little year off and did customer service for the Texas Rangers. Go Rangers!
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. Except that it was when the stadium was not air conditioned, and it's really hot there during the summer in those games. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I was going to Women in the Word in the mornings, and this was probably 18 years ago, I'm thinking. Wendy Lyons, who's now our Fort Worth director, was dressed up as a cheerleader with several other people.
Yeah.
Did this hilarious skit up on there. And I just, at that moment, I thought, I want to be a part of this ministry team. They're having so much fun.
Yeah.
They were so enthusiastic. And so then I started volunteering and started doing leadership in the evening. And then a position opened on the staff several years ago, and I said, okay, I'd love to be a part of that.
I
So,
love that. Yeah. And I think of you all those years that you were so faithful to serve in Evening Women of the Word. And that's really fun. And for those of you that don't know Wendy Lyon, she doesn't get an opportunity to do it very much anymore, but she's an actress, and acting is kind of her superpower, but she just doesn't do it so much anymore.
you know, she was so cute up on that stage, all dressed up and just doing all her pom-poms and stuff.
Yeah,
and I thought, wow, that's a fun place to be.
Yeah, for a super long time, my kids knew her as Momo from kids camp and didn't connect her to being Wendy Lyon. Yeah, anyway, it's so weird. Yeah, it's a real person.
Wow.
And I would always tell them, I'm friends with Momo.
We need to get
Y'all remember
to
those
relive
camp years.
that some.
Yeah, we should.
Absolutely. Cameron, tell us about how you got here.
Yeah, so I
little more
came here. I came here, straight from college. I just graduated from Auburn like 2 months before I moved to Fort Worth, and I moved here for a leadership residency program that Christ Chapel has. And I pretty much knew I wanted to do women's ministry. I had worked my whole life and had done different things and thought this would be fun to do or this would be fun to do. But pretty much once I submitted my life to the Lord, I was like, yeah, I'll probably do women's ministry. And so that was kind of my pathway into our women's team. And then I got to join staff.
And tell us about the degree you're pursuing right now.
So I'm getting a Master of Theology or a THM right now. And my concentration is ministry with women. So
I'm glad it is.
it's pretty on the nose.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, my first career, it was as an elementary school teacher. I did elementary ed in college. Loved it so much. Loved being a first grade teacher and a second grade teacher. Then stayed home for some years. Once I had my first kiddo, I have 2 boys, stayed home with them and came to Women in the Word and then began volunteering in different places in women's ministry for lots of years and knew at some point I'd go back and do something else. Wasn't sure if I'd go back into the classroom or had some other things I was thinking about as well. And it was a little over 10 years ago when we started the West Campus, and I lived really close to there and was asked to be a part of launching that campus. Never would have I guess I just never would have guessed that this is where I would be 10 years later. Very much a calling, but have been so surprised where God has called me in life. Just and it totally, if you had asked me if I would have done ministry, I'd have said sure, and I'm sure it would be kids ministry because I really loved being an elementary school teacher. But then God just gave me this calling. So anyway, it's really, really fun. I love to hear people's stories about how they got here because I feel like God's called us all in really different places in different ways, and that He uses our backgrounds. To do what we're doing now.
Yeah,
anyway, just love that so much. Okay, while we're talking about staff, does anybody have a favorite story that they feel like they can share on air? I think we probably all have favorite stories that maybe wouldn't be as wise to share about your time on staff.
Well,
I'm laughing. Y'all can't see our faces. You can catch me at Lori's.
Plenty of embarrassing stories, not favorite stories.
Some stories that we're not airing.
Find us on Sunday.
Yeah, we could tell you in person. Yeah. Lori has a story that has to do with me, though. So you just
you need to finish the story up. I'll start the story.
You start it, I'll finish it.
It was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, at least.
The 5 or 6 of us went to El Sal, where we do a lot of help with the women's ministry down there. Lots of wonderful women down there that we kind of help, and we went down to do kind of a leadership training with them. And it was at the end. It was May, and everybody was a little tired and a little worn out. And I was getting sick as it was going on, and trying to keep myself together. And we were we couldn't go to the beach because something was up with the beach, and so we were going to go to the mountains. And we were in 2 cars going up this windy road to go eat somewhere.
Very narrow, very windy.
And Shelley was sitting next to me trying to talk me through to keep from getting sick and telling me all these stories. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And about that time, I saw this bag go flying past the window, kind of hitting the car. And I thought, what is that? And then we stopped, and it was Misty had gotten sick. And Misty, you can continue the story.
Well, I get car sick also. And narrow, windy road, and we had just had breakfast, and we were in this woman from El Salvador, her brand new car that she was so proud of. And I thought, not going to make it, not sure I'm going to make it. I was exactly where you were. And Deb Haygood, if y'all know her from Women of the Word, was sitting beside me. And so anyway, I ended up, I'm trying to think how to say this on air without being too graphic. But anyway, found 2 grocery sacks that we had bought bottled water in, vomited in those sacks, and then had a sack in my hand. And Deb Haygood is hilarious. And she was like, give me that. And so I passed her the bag, and she just opened the window, threw it out the window. And then from somebody from Texas who's grown up with don't mess with Texas, you should never ever litter. I still feel bad about it, but I don't know what else we were going to do with it. So anyway, that is one of my favorites.
And Deb was a nurse, so that's such a nurse thing. Just give me that bag.
I thought, well,
And
I'll take care of that.
really bought it.
I just remember seeing Misty when we got out of the cars and this look on her face. And Deb said, well, we just threw it out of the car. I was like, oh,
That's what that was.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just shared this weekend the first time I ever did the announcements. I had the most tricky words to say, and I was so nervous. And I went up there, and I was actually announcing Women in the Word Bible study. And I said, come join us while we study Philemon. That's not how you say it. It's Philemon. I knew that. Yeah, Philemon came out of my mouth. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Those are great. I love it. Well, let's talk about Christmas gifts. Let's get back on track with Christmas. I'm going to talk about gifts given, gifts received. Christina, you have what I think is a hysterical story that is so emblematic of early marriage, I feel like sometimes, in the lack of communication or understanding of one another. Also think it can kind of represent every gift anyone's ever given with the best of intentions that didn't.
Yeah. Well, gifts is my love language.
Okay.
And so it's really important to me. When I get a good gift, it speaks to my heart. I feel so loved and encouraged. And I try to give really good gifts.
You are a good gift
Thank
giver.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You really are.
That. So when we first got married, I had been single, so I would get back massages and I'd get my nails done pretty regularly and stuff. And so when we first got married, I'm trying to move out of this phase of learning how to be on a budget and be considerate of my husband and stuff like that. And anyway, he got me the world's worst back massaging tool.
Because what had you asked for?
I had asked for a subscription, an annual subscription for massages. Once a month massage, one like that, someone in town I could just go to monthly. And instead, he bought me this. It's actually called a trigger point massager. I've had to since look it up. It's about as big as my body, and it's a giant S shape.
Yeah.
And it has these knobs on it, and you hold it with both your hands, and you work out the kinks in your neck and your back, and it's so painful. But also, I don't want to give myself a back massage.
it wasn't quite the same experience.
And he was so proud of it. And it was so funny. And we had just gotten married. It was our first Christmas. And I was like, this is the worst gift. And it went under our bed.
Did you tell him it was the worst?
Yeah. We don't do gifts now. We're 10 years in and we know, hey, buy your own gift. It's okay. We don't need, I would rather just get what I want. I gave him horrible gifts that year too. I still think they were really, really good gifts. He says they were horrible, but that massager went under our bed and we never saw it again.
But I think it's you've got to pull it out. It's just a hilarious, this
So
is not what I had in mind.
Nope.
I love it so much. Yeah. Yeah. So it reminds me of the Ralphie in A Christmas Story, where his aunt gives the 2 boys the pink bunny pajamas and the mom makes them wear them and they come down all mortified, have to be in the pink, but it's so funny. Best of intentions doesn't always work out. So great. Cameron, tell us about one of the best gifts you've received, or what do you like to receive?
I'm very hard to surprise. I'm very nosy.
Were you one that went and found Christmas gifts?
Oh, I found them all
through your house.
All
Me
of
too.
them.
Me too.
That's funny.
I mean, and so I got kind of good at being like, wow, look at this. But no, once I found them, I would go check on them every too often just to make sure.
Are you kidding?
No.
That's so funny.
Because I was afraid that my mom would figure out I knew where they were. And so then the hunt never ended until it was wrapped. But then once it got wrapped in the tree, I was like, oh yeah, that's I know what that is.
I saw the shape of that in the closet.
So truly, if anyone can surprise me with a gift, and it's something that I also, like you, Christina, feel really seen by, like just a random surprise, I'm like, nice. That's awesome. But if it's like something I really wanted, then I'm really excited. And I'm always impressed that I could be surprised.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But also my nieces and nephews, my oldest sister especially has 2 kids, and she does like crafts with her kids every year for Christmas gifts. And so I decorated for Christmas just recently. And like I have a painting up of my niece's little hands when she was 1.
Sweet.
And
I'll make you one of mine.
yeah.
Mine.
Thank you. I would love that.
That will go into the list of that's not what I had in mind.
Yeah, and like my nephew did one with his little fingers of like Jesus in a manger. So anything like that, I love.
Oh,
really
I think
sweet.
that's precious, Lori. You have a sweet story about the year you and your husband Keith got married, and an unexpected or maybe just touching gift from that year. Will you tell us about it? I love this story.
Well, we actually got married 40 years ago this December in
anniversary.
Annapolis, Maryland. And we were all flying at different times. Everybody was coming up. And I really wasn't sure how much of Keith's family was coming. I was really more worried about him getting there because he wasn't flying until Christmas Eve because he was in vet school at the time and couldn't get off. But my husband's family are all West Texas ranchers. His grandparents had never been on an airplane, but they decided that they were all coming. And so off they got off the plane. And I remember seeing his grandfather downtown with his cowboy boots and his hat on. And he didn't really have a big enough coat and he was freezing. So he just didn't realize. And I just think back, it was so kind for them to have left the ranch and everything, his livestock, and came up and they brought pecan pies on their laps that they had made for the rehearsal dinner because they wanted, it was supposed to be a Texas theme. And so all his family had, cooked something like that. It was just it was a real special Christmas gift that year. They did that.
So meaningful and sweet. And
what a way to start your life together.
I know.
It's really
so
cool.
supported,
Yeah, I love that. All of y'all. Those are super fun stories. Well, I know for many of us, holidays are a mixed bag of both joy and fun and delight and hard and difficult places too, whether it's memories, relationships past or present. Sometimes there can be a lot of stress and anxiety. Would any of you be willing to share one of the harder pieces of the season and maybe just a little bit about how you walk with those tough places with the Lord, walk through those tough places?
I think maybe one thing that's been tricky for me is just when I was a kid or even a teenager or before I got married, I had all these grand plans of what will my life look like with the holidays and the traditions that we're going to have, these amazing things. And now that I am married with 1 kid and she's in 2nd grade, I've been trying to figure out what that looks like for the last 7 years. Okay, now that I'm here, what are those traditions? What does this look like? And every year I'm like, well, how about this new tradition? But then it's not a tradition because it's new. And so it's like this weird thing that I tend to fight every year. Like, what is expected of me? What do I expect of myself? What are the things that I wish I could accomplish or the dreams that I have for myself that my kid doesn't really even have, So that's always kind of been a struggle for me to figure that out.
Yeah. And what's sustainable.
That's great. Yeah, what's sustainable.
So,
that's right.
Because you see all those pictures in magazines and people doing all these great things on social media, and you think, wow, how can I pull that off?
There's no way. Yeah.
How can Santa fit through my chimney every year?
Yeah, we never did Elf on a Shelf, but that was my I can never be creative. I can never do all those. I can never stay up after them and have the little scene with all of the, That's I'm glad you shared that though, because I think that's a really common thing that's hard for lots of people is maybe you set up an expectation in your own mind of what it should be and then find that hard to pull off or even maybe it's not what the Lord meant for you to do. There's lots of different ways to think about that.
So maybe the tradition is no tradition.
Absolutely. You do something new every year, and it's a surprise. And Cameron will come over because it'll be a surprise.
I'll be there. I'll be delighted.
Yeah. Lori, you have shared with at least me before the year that your dad died at Christmas and what that was like. Would you just talk to us about that a little bit?
But before I tell that, I just have to tell you how relieved I am that the Elf on the Shelf was not created during my children when they were growing up, because I look at those things and think, wow, I would have never been able to keep up with all that.
Oh my gosh.
Nope.
I was lucky to get Christmas done.
Absolutely.
Also,
I'm
we
glad
should
you
have
said
said, don't listen to this podcast with little ears
Oh.
in the car.
I mean, yes. We will maybe add that into the intro.
Hilarious. PG content.
Super magical Elf on the Shelf.
Well, yes, my dad did die suddenly. I was 30, and he was the rock of our family, and it was real sudden. And I just remember sitting in my backyard that night and thinking, how will I ever be able to celebrate Christmas and smile again? There just won't be, Christmas won't ever be the same. And that next Sunday was the first Sunday of Advent of hope. And the Lord just gently reminded me that, I had the hope of the resurrection to celebrate. That was what Christmas was all about.
Oh, wow.
And it really did change everything about that for me, that I could survive and celebrate Christmas again because just because of the Lord being born, and that we did have the hope of Advent.
I love that so much, because I think sometimes those concepts can be sort of abstract until you were in a time and a place where you thought, this isn't abstract. That hope is real, and that is what's going to carry me through a really tough season. That's a beautiful example of what that looks like in real life and how that really shapes our heart and our minds. It's good. Cameron? What are your...
Well, I lost my mom 3.5 years ago now, and in July. So we had a little bit of space between summer and Christmas, but that Christmas was super hard. There was hard stuff going on in our family, and just grief in general, and then the holidays. Luckily, my mom was also terrible at traditions, Christina. So it was a gift because I was like,
There's nothing
to miss. There are no cookies that aren't being baked.
that are the same every year.
It was just all like, well, we just miss her. And so, but I'd say the same thing that Lori did. I think, as hard as it was, and as it still is, I think looking towards the second coming of Christ, like Christmas leading up to like his first coming and the first Advent, every Christmas now I'm like, oh, we look to the second coming. And even that first Christmas, where obviously death was something that I was thinking, like, it wasn't supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
The hard things that were happening around me, I was like, and this wasn't supposed to be this way either. And so there's, I think, great hope there. And I think that liturgy of the year that kind of builds you towards that really can buoy you in a season that's really hard. So
I love that, because you really echoed a lot of what Lori said, which was the hope is real. And the hope makes a true difference in how I can approach hard things at any time of the year, but maybe particularly at this time, where I think sometimes the hard things seem harder and the losses seem deeper and the absence seems maybe, I don't know, more glaring. I just think that that's lovely and beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
What I heard you both say that I think is really helpful is that the holidays and Christmas isn't about the people here or the traditions or the gifts. It's not. We've made those things, but really it's about Christ and what he has done for us. And so getting to like remember those things, I think is so helpful.
I think a lot about I guess it's a Christmas. I don't like Christmas music, y'all, so I don't listen to it much. But like,
I'm going to have a talk with you.
What? I'm sorry.
I just pulled up my first Spotify playlist. It's Christmas
all
today.
the same. It's just the same every year. Anyway. But that's the Christmas song that's like a thrill of hope. A weary world rejoices.
Yes.
I mean, my mom died in 2020. And so you talk about a year where people were weary and that the thrill of hope that, man, this is all like Christ entered a broken world and he's going to come back and restore the world. And so, it's a pretty visceral thing, I think.
I love that so much. A thrill of hope. The
Oh,
weary
holy
world
night.
rejoices.
Okay.
Only night.
Oh, Holy Night. Yep, I knew the one.
I knew it.
My favorite's one.
So good. Oh, okay. So I know that both of you have kind of talked a little bit about the absence of tradition, but anybody have even if a small tradition that you kind of do like?
We always did a big Christmas breakfast.
Yeah.
And it was always a breakfast casserole
Uh-huh.
and with monkey bread.
Yes.
Or people call it different things.
Yeah.
So we called it monkey bread.
Yeah.
And when my mom got sick when I was in high school, her sister and her husband started coming up to our house from Florida every year. And so that made it just feel extra special because there really is like the Christmas letdown, but having people there, and they're so fun and wonderful. And so having them there was a lot of fun. And then they kept coming. So, yeah.
That's great. We have always done monkey bread every year too. And last year I dared to say, could we maybe do cinnamon rolls this year? And I thought everybody would be like, no way. And everybody said yes. And we did cinnamon rolls this year last year, which felt very, I don't know,
We do cinnamon
weird.
The monkey bread situation gets out of control. It's too much. It doesn't reheat well. It doesn't,
that's right.
It's a good trade-off.
And do y'all do it with like the canned biscuits that you dip in the butter and cinnamon sugar?
in the bundt pan. It's too much. Yeah, no, I get it. Good trade-off.
Too much. Yeah, so good. What about you, Lori?
Well, my husband makes homemade donuts. The same one out of those biscuits. And
Like fries them?
yes, they're like what his mother did growing up. And they are to die for on Christmas morning. But then you just really feel terrible like 2 hours later because you've eaten so many of them. But they are like magnificent.
That might be worth it.
All different. And we frost them in all different colors. And so
I
anyway,
might need that recipe.
I definitely.
I might just need to come over.
I know.
It is, they're really, really good.
That's super
Yum.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What about you? Do you have a tradition that, or something that's just really meaningful to you?
Well, we did grow up in Annapolis, and my dad was in ministry, and so we went to the Naval Academy Chapel for Christmas Eve, and they have an incredible, beautiful candlelight service that we went to at 9:00 every Christmas Eve. And I think at that point it was really nice because, all the busyness of Christmas was done.
Yes.
And you could just rest in peace, and, and sing and enjoy the evening.
Yeah. Oh, I am not a night person, so 9:00 would be, well, maybe back when I was a kid, it would have been fine, but that seems really late to me now. But I didn't grow up in a church at all. And even when, for the first maybe 4 or 5 years after I had become a believer, didn't go to church on Christmas Eve just because we would go home and be with family. And the first year, and I can't remember when it was, that my husband and I got to attend a Christmas Eve service here at Christ Chapel, and we did the candlelight service and sang Silent Night, and everybody has a candle and lights it from each other. It still stands out to me as one of the most worshipful and beautiful things that I have ever been a part of, and that sense of community in that room, and you're among other believers, and that, I remember that first time, that sense of this, like you said, this is what Christmas is about. This before we go and do the cinnamon rolls and the gifts and whatever, I'm doing this on Christmas Eve, and it kind of stands out to me as one of the most worshipful hours of the entire year for me. And every single year, I'm so grateful to get to be a part of that and get to do it. And I think maybe the absence of it, I mean, my parents did great Christmases. They just, they weren't rooted in Christ. And I'm so grateful for that. And it means so much to me. So yeah, that would be, I think, only 1 year in the last however many years we were out of town and didn't get to do that Christmas Eve service. And it was super sad to me. So anyway, I'm super grateful for that. So much. God's good to give us all different ways to see him in the season. I think it's really lovely and beautiful. And just praying that we would have, all of us would have the eyes to see where he is in the season, and the good and in the hard, and the, all of those things. And love the reminders that it is, Christina, I love what you said about him and his coming and his hope, and so good. Yeah. Okay. Let's, before we close, I I want to ask you a fun question because we normally open our podcast by asking our guests, what's a small thing that's bringing you joy? I skipped that at the beginning of our episode today because I want to end with this question. I love a Christmas stocking. My mom did a great Christmas stocking for us when we were kids with little things. I love to really slowly pull out what's in there and kind of savor each thing. So I want to know is if you could fill your own Christmas stocking with your favorite, just little small things, tell us what would be inside.
Makeup and nail polish.
Yes.
All
And if
day,
you know
from
Christina.
top to the bottom.
Yeah.
The whole thing full and spilling out.
I love it. Makeup and
With
nail
maybe
polish.
like some links to YouTube how-to videos.
How do you put a link on the stock?
I don't know.
if you could fill your stocking
With
it has little
anything I
links.
want.
Yeah, like YouTube videos of how to do the
Yeah.
makeup and how to apply the polish.
So what I want to
and
know
whatever.
is, do you pick that out
I
for Jared?
fill my own.
Okay.
Yes, I do. It's from TJ Maxx.
I started to say, do you let Jared pick those things out? Okay.
No. I just tell him this is how much I spent. And he's like, cool.
Yeah. Do you do his stocking or does he do yours?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I do all the stockings and gifts.
Yes.
Yeah, after my mom died that first Christmas, after her, I got a stocking of like batteries.
Oh my
and then,
gosh,
like, some
such a dad
Reese's
thing.
cups, which there's no telling how much money my dad spent on those batteries.
Aw.
But I was like, sweet, 50 pounds.
Yay.
I can't believe you didn't rip the hook out of the mantle.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, women feel better stockings.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so Cameron, what would you put in a stocking if it weren't full of batteries?
I don't mind getting batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably similar to Christina,
Yeah.
like little samples of beauty products. I love
Yes.
trying new things. I hate spending the money on them.
Yeah.
I especially hate spending the money on something and then I don't like
Yep.
it.
Yes.
Yep.
It is it irks me to no end.
Yeah.
And so for someone else to spend the money on that and then put it, and then if it's just a sample, and then if I like it, I can get more of it. And if I,
I
don't
love
like
that.
it, I
Yeah.
don't feel bad about.
That's great.
Yeah, about throwing it away.
Yeah.
So
I like that too because it's kind of luxurious because y'all probably don't do this math in your head, but like when I'm standing in line at like Ulta, Sephora, or even like at Target or whatever, the sample size things, like per ounce or whatever, is like 5 times what it costs if you bought it full time, full size. And you do want to try it before you buy it, but then I have a hard time with the cost per whatever it is, half ounce or so. It's just that's a fun, luxurious thing that somebody else does for you, like sample type. That's fun. What about you, Lori?
You know, I never have enough reading glasses.
And
And so with the 1.5 correction, I would need like 5 of those. That would be really great. That would get me by for maybe a month.
Yes.
And then I would lose them. But pictures of my grandchildren draw, they always make me pictures and put them in there. And I love hot tamales. And Keith always puts hot tamales because it's like the one time of the year I can eat them and not feel terrible about sitting there eating them.
That's kind of a fun tradition. So that would be, is that your favorite
sweet.
candy or just your Christmas? Like what you
does
have
he
at
wrap
Christmas?
them in anything or just the tamale straight?
No,
in
you put the
stocking?
box.
Oh, they put
Not
the
just
box?
dumped out.
The spicy hot tamale candy.
Not real tamales.
Actual tamale.
Not tamales from the grocery store.
The red ones in the box.
It's like just the tamale.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing. That's a great,
I kept thinking, there's no way Cameron's thinking she's talking about real tamales.
No, I was. I'm thinking of the tamales I have in my freezer range because
that's great.
No,
There's
hot
also
tamales
red.
are
They're like,
candy.
kind of like red hots. Or
Yeah.
not red hots, but
Amazing.
like,
Oh,
yeah, little
jeez.
gooey. Yeah. That's funny. Although I would take real tamales in my stocking because I love a good
I
Christmas
mean, I
tamale.
was just like, that's like putting a taco in a stocking.
That's true.
And you're already full of monkey bread, so when am I even going to eat this?
I was like, are they hot? Does he make
he
them that
wrap it?
morning?
This is the best unexpected
so
moment I have had in a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
And what about you, Misty?
Okay, so mine, definitely reading glasses too, and I will be
1.5.
given yes,
Okay.
and would be giving them. My sweet husband is always feels bad because he loses his so much. I'm like, everybody loses their reading glasses. You need to buy like 15 of them at a time. Like this is just what people do. They lose their reading glasses. So I think that would be fun, and I also love little beauty products. I love little candles, but that would be when I have to pick myself because I'm super picky about the smell. So go to TJ Maxx, get your own candle, stick it in there. Although actually, David does a good job with that sometimes too.
Oh, sweet.
But I love any little thing that I wouldn't necessarily buy by myself. You know, I don't know, just fun, small. Like one time, my mother-in-law gave us all these like glass nail files that work so well.
Wow.
And I never had seen that, you know, just fun, small
Yeah.
things like that. But it's really is my very favorite thing is to buy stocking stuffers for people and then to open my own stocking. And I kind of shop on Amazon for a long time out for stocking stuffers for people because I think they're totally fun. So anyway, well, y'all, thanks so much for sharing your heart and then also the fun things, which aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but you know, yeah, the good, the bad, the fun, the hard, all of that of the Christmas season. Thanks for joining us and being with us here today. And I'm just going to close this in prayer and just pray for our Christmas seasons. Lord God, you are so good, and we are grateful and just give you our praises for coming to earth and taking on flesh and giving us the hope that our weary hearts can rejoice in. I thank you for that, Lord. I pray throughout this season that your coming and our future with you would be at the forefront of our mind. I pray that we would be rooted and grounded in your word during the season, despite the either the busyness or the hard things or even the fun things that can distract us from you, Lord. I thank you for giving us one another. Pray that we would honor you throughout this season in whatever way it is that you call us to, whether it's at work, at home, with neighbors in our community. Just pray that we would be your light and help others to see who you are in this world. And ask all this in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening. For more episodes, be sure to follow Encouraged and Equipped.